This is Government in Focus, and I'm a presenter, Dwight Sampson. This week we are talking surveys. We're talking the Labor Force Survey and the Census Survey. And with me to provide more details on these two surveys is Head of Statistics, Mr. Sylvan Roberts. Mr. Roberts, welcome to Government in Focus.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
All right, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. I'm enjoying it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's first get a clear understanding of the two surveys that will be conducted as of September 23rd. That's the Labor Force Survey and the Census Survey. So let's talk about the Labor Force Survey first.
Okay, well, first of all, I should say I must appreciate being here with you because publicizing an activity like this is extremely important, for the general public. Okay, yes, we are doing two very important surveys back to back, at the same time. Mm-hmm. And with respect to your question about the labor force survey, we're trying to measure economic activity, both recent or current, as well as economic activity in the past year. So it's a standard questions, a standard set of questions we're asking, comparable to the region and comparable internationally. But I should hasten to say that we're not doing a full-fledged labor force survey. We're doing a shortened or an abridged version of it. With respect to the census, actually we're doing something similar. A census is done every 10 years. We are doing an intercensus, which means in between census years count. And therefore, we're not doing all questions that are normally asked on a census. We are doing, again, an abridged version. And you have asked me this, but let me hasten to say that it's very, very important to have up-to-date information about the population and about the labor force activities. As we all know, since I came here, I've been hearing population counts of different numbers. So nobody's sure what the true population count is. Mm-hmm. This census will certainly give us that count.
Okay. All right. So what really is the purpose of conducting these surveys, and how will it help the Statistics Department to fulfill the duties to the people of Montserrat?
Okay. The Statistics Department has a mandate to collect, compile, analyze, and publish socioeconomic, environmental statistics, official statistics we call them. And this particular activity, or these activities, because there are two at the same time, census and survey, will help the country in advancing its planning and development. The information we're collecting are extremely important for population planning as well as socioeconomic and demographic planning. So the information that we gather will be used by planners in the government, as well as donor agencies, as well as the business community. Mm-hmm. And as we go along, maybe I'll give you some examples of how this data can be used.
Okay. All right. So tell us how the Statistics Department will go about conducting these surveys. Okay. We're talking approach and the methodology.
Okay. We have, of course, moved into a technology age, as you know now.
Yes.
In the past, for example, the last census, which was done in 2011 in Montserrat and in all Caribbean countries, CARICOM member states, Caribbean countries, most of the censuses were done using the paper questionnaires. PAPI is called PAPI. And since then, we have migrated to modern technology whereby we are now able to collect the same data using tablets, and it's called the CAPI, or Computer-Assisted Personal Interviews methodology. So at the moment as we speak, we're finalizing the training of our field staff, interviewers and supervisors in the CAPI methodology. So when they approach the households, it will be through a personal interview, because they will go personally to the household and speak to them, ask them questions, and they will be recording these answers on the tablet. Okay. Now, you didn't ask me this, but let me just say that the CAPI methodology, of course, is much, much more efficient in terms of accuracy of data that we'll collect, and also in terms of timeliness. So we'll be able to get results out. I am telling people I'm hoping to get results out by probably end of November or early December. In the past, as you know, results used to take a year, maybe 2 years sometime before you get final results. So that shows you the efficiency of the methodology.
Mm-hmm. Is the same approach that has been used in previous years? If not, what are the benefits of the new technology versus the ones previously used?
Okay. I think I just made mention of that, but let me repeat. In the past, if you can remember, I'm sure even with your 2011 census, when the paper questionnaires were used, what the methodology there is that interviewers collected the data on the paper questionnaire, then those paper questionnaires would have to be manually edited. Then the questionnaire would then be entered, data entry methodology, or probably scanned. And then that database has to be cleaned. And again, a manual process, manual processes. I forgot the step, actually, the important step of editing or coding, where again, manually these things would be done. Now, all of these things, the editing, the coding, the capture of the data instead of scanning or instead of data entry, those things are done immediately on a tablet. So in this methodology, we have the interviewers collecting the data at the household level. As soon as the questionnaire is completed, the interviewer will send that questionnaire, complete the questionnaire, to her supervisor. Supervisor will review that questionnaire, and then if she is happy that it's okay, she will then send it to headquarters. Headquarters at that level will then do another thorough review, and if everything is okay with the questionnaire, then that is approved, and that is then added immediately to our database. So there is no coding, no further manual editing of these steps. And that is why, okay, when it reaches the database now, when everything is completed, the entire country, then there will be some editing, computer editing by the IT people, but that is done quite swiftly. And then we then end up with a clean database very quickly, and then the reports and tables can be run on this database. So that's how fast and efficient the technology is.
You mentioned that you would like to have the final results out by end of November, early December. Right. What specific time frame is given for the field work of the survey?
Okay, very good question. The field work, we're hoping to complete the whole country in about 3 to 4 weeks. All right? Wow. But we're using a large field force, I must say. Let me tell you, we're using 60 or so interviewers. Oh, okay? Mm-hmm. And we're using 6 supervisors, so 10 interviewers per supervisor. So that is the field force. And let me explain that we're also deviating a bit from the methodology used in most countries currently. That is, instead of sending 3 or 4 teams, simultaneously throughout the different areas of the country, what we're doing is we are sending the entire 60 people to an enumeration area at the same time. So all 60 people, and I should emphasize this, it's a new methodology. I am a bit concerned because I have never used it before. I'm a bit concerned that people might get a bit suspicious about why so many people are here at the same time. I'm asking the public to please bear with us. We're doing what used to be done before, but in this methodology. That means that we can finish much more quickly, and we can get results out much more quickly.
Okay, so you mentioned also, follow-up question, you mentioned that you're sending all 60 persons to a specific polling division. From the Statistics Department, how is this going to be worked out? Are you going to start with the south of the island, come up to the north, or are you going to start from the north? What's it?
Well, we're doing a pilot, first of all. The pilot will be done on the 23rd of September. By the way, I know you'll come to this question, but we have designated Census Day as 22nd of September. You'll probably come back to that in a minute, right? But to answer your question, we'll do the pilot in Lookout 1, I think it is, Lookout 1. So what we'll do there on the 23rd is, it's a Sunday, by the way, Sunday afternoon. We'll send all the 60 interviewers there. Each interview will be assigned a building or some building numbers, about 2 or 3 buildings in the area. Those are already pre-arranged. They will get these numbers, then that will be their assignment for that day. So each interviewer will then interview every single household or every single person within their buildings allocated, right? When they're finished with that, we'll then assemble, will assemble at a school in Lookout to have a discussion, because it's very important to have a discussion on any issues or any problems, any challenges, any concerns, and we hopefully will be able to iron out those concerns, because we want them to go back the next day to the next adjacent area or in immersion area to answer your question, and then complete that area, and then continuously the adjacent areas, and so on until the entire country is completed.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that the entire fieldwork part of the surveys will last 3 to 4 weeks. Now, after the information was collected, all the data, after that 4 weeks were completed, what was the next process?
Very good question. That's a very important process step as well. Okay, once everything, every person has been enumerated, and all that data uploaded to the database, the first step will be for the IT team to do a final cleaning of the data. Cleaning, what that means? Well, there may be some inconsistencies in maybe the ages or the gender of people, maybe the type of occupation they're doing. So those will be checked to make sure that we have as accurately as possible information. Though after that final check by the IT team, because by now the field work has been completed, right?
Right.
There may also, by the way, if different fields are missing, then there may be a situation where the IT team will then contact the supervisors and say, well, look, this is missing, let's make a decision. Should they go back to the household, or can we leave that, or So if we think that they should go back to the household, then they probably go back and ask that question, right? But the point is that the cleaning would then take place at that level, and after the database has been cleaned, we're satisfied, then we'll have a database from which the reports, the tables, the statistical tables, can then be generated. Now, once we have the statistical tables, or some people call them reports, I call them tables, the analysis will then start. So what I was telling you earlier about having results by the end of November, what I meant by that is that I am sure that we can put together, once everything falls into place, once everything, put together a key findings report with the major indicators, the major statistics. But not only numbers, by the way. We'll be doing some analytical analysis of the numbers in a very concise and short report. And we hope that we have the press there again to publicize this to the public. Though that key findings report, of course, will be made available to the public for use. And then the next big step will be later on to do a much more comprehensive report.
Okay. All right. So earlier you mentioned this survey is a bridge survey or a shortened survey. Will the full survey that will be done in 2021, the information collected there, will it replace this information that is collected now, or will it be an addition to it?
It will certainly be in addition to it, right? Because what is normally done, as you know, they're 10-year. The United Nations actually are the, they're the ones who set the guidelines, and they recommend that countries do full censuses every 10 years. Okay. But they also recommend, if possible, that you do an intercensal, that is in between census years, account with a few of the questions, not all the questions in a full census. And that is what we're doing now. But in 2021, yes, Montserrat will certainly do the full census as in the past, right?
Okay.
I should also mention here as a clarification, because I referred to it, that every census that is done uses a reference day. And the main reason for a reference day is because any census of any country, Montserrat, for example, some people say it's 5,000 population. When we say that figure, we're referring to a point in time, because as you know, the population increases every single minute or every single day or every, either somebody dies, somebody is born, somebody migrates, and the population changes. So we try to fix a day, a certain point in time when we can get information about the entire population. So when the interviewers go out to the households, they will be collecting information about the householders with respect to that particular day, the 22nd of September. So if somebody was not alive on that day, but was born after that day, that person would not be included.
Okay.
It would only be people who are alive and a usual resident of Montserrat in that household that would be enumerated.
Okay.
So we have a count at the end with reference to one day. The other clarification I think I should make is the reference week. Now, the reference week refers to the labor force survey. Again, the ILO, International Labour Organization, the UN, they have a recommendation that countries use a reference period, usually a week, whenever they're collecting information about current or recent economic activity. Or in the case of past economic activity, you use a reference period of a year or 12 months, right? So, our reference week for this census survey, is the week just before the census day. That is the week ending the 22nd of September. So we're using the reference week, the whole week, and the reference day for census, the last day of the week, or the second of the week.
Okay. All right. We know the objective is to have persons or family members in the community cooperate with the interviewers. Have there been any issues that you know of in the past with persons and corporations, and what are the method that you use to deal with these issues going into this survey?
There are issues in any country whenever censuses or surveys are done. In some countries more so than others, and I can highlight some of these issues. For example, some of the questions may appear to be very personal. That's one of the biggest issues. People may wonder, why are you asking so many questions? So, in order to combat that problem, we're trying our best in the short time that we took to train the interviewers, we're trying our best to make sure that they have a quick answer. For example, let me give you an example. One of the questions that we're asking the household is to give us, from a list of appliances and equipment, we're asking them to tell us whether the household owns a refrigerator, an iron, an electric stove, blah, 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 a whole list. And the reason why we're getting this list is not to really impose on people's personal affordability, right, but more so to be able to get what we call a wealth index from that. And that wealth index is very, very important in assessing poverty in the country. And by the way, when a household gives us that list of appliances, for example, or any other information, everybody has taken an oath of secrecy to ensure that we do not divulge information about any person at any level. Except when we do our reports, we'll be saying that the situation in Lookout or the situation in Salem or the situation in wherever area, at that level, we say, this is the situation. There is more poverty pockets in whatever area they appear, depending on that index, right? And some other questions as well. Okay.
So we're running two surveys simultaneously, the labor force and the census. How would persons know the difference between the interviewers for the labor force and the interviewers for the census? Would there be a difference?
No.
Or everybody
Okay.
be just doing?
Yeah, good question, yes. There won't be a difference. I mean, the interviewers are trained to do both activities. And when, as I said, when they go to the building and they identify households living in that building, people, of course, they will then administer first the census questions, and immediately after that, they go into the labor force questions. So it will take about, 40 to 45 minutes per household, from what we tested. So it won't be, hopefully, not imposing on the time of the respondents too much. Let me say at this point, that repeat that all of the interviewers, including myself, we have taken an oath of secrecy not to divulge any individual information about anybody. None at all. In fact, we drilled the interviewers. I personally was involved in making sure that they realized that they shouldn't even be talking to their friends or their families or anybody about what they collect in the field, you know? And at the end of the day, as I said earlier, we'll do aggregated information. That is what we'll release, which would hide any individual information.
Do you have any other comments that you would like to share with us, any other information?
I certainly do, right? I certainly do. I must say that, this is activities, I love this kind of work. I mean, I've been doing this throughout, and I want to use the opportunity to appeal to the public that please stand up and be counted, because the country needs you, because this data will be actually used in the development of the people and the country of Montserrat. So don't be afraid. Don't worry about confidentiality. As I said, please give freely, answer freely and truthfully. Nothing of what you give to us will be given out to anybody else except the government of Montserrat. And it will be mainly for planning purposes. I also want to say here that the business community, I'm hoping that they also cooperate with us. We won't be going to businesses to ask questions, but we will be enumerating or listing the type of business in each building if there is one, right? Okay. So there may be some questions that they want to find out the owner and so on, but not very many questions, and we're asking the business community to also cooperate, because, as I said before, they will also find a lot of uses from this database. So please stand up and be counted.
This has been Government in Focus, and today we spoke with Mr. Roberts, Sylvan Roberts, from the Statistics Department. We were talking about the two upcoming surveys, the Labor Force Survey and the Census Survey, that will commence as of 23rd September 2018. Remember, Census Day on Montserrat is September 22nd, 2018. Go out and be counted and be a part of the process.